Nigeria's commitment to sheltering refugees fleeing regional conflicts reflects its humanitarian ethos. Yet this generosity collides with stark realities. Issues like strained resources, integration barriers, and a fractured global support system. Even as displacement surges, balancing compassion with sustainable solutions, economic inclusion, the issue of rights, protection, and cross-sector collaboration therefore becomes more urgent. My guest and I will be talking about how, Nigeria generally navigates most, if not all, of these imperatives, upholding dignity for displaced populations while also safeguarding its own development priorities. My guest is Mordecai Titus. He is the Deputy Director, Refugees Affairs at the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. Welcome to Insight, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Nice to have you here.
My pleasure.
It's the issue of how we manage migration and displacement, challenges in Nigeria that is on the table right now. And it is a fact, well, it's out there that Nigeria's reputation as a compassionate host to refugees is commendable. But, the scale of this responsibility raises critical concerns. How is your commission, let me say the commission does not belong to you. So I'll say, how is the commission addressing the strain on national resources while also ensuring that refugees are not just housed, but they are actively integrated into communities with access to things like, education, to issues like healthcare, and even economic participation?
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, as you rightly say, Nigeria has been generous in refugee hosting. As I'm talking to you now, from January 2025, statistics show that Nigeria has hosted about 127,000 refugees and asylum seekers in this country. Majority of them are Cameroonian. However, with the burden on ground, when we talk about internally displaced person population, which is a great challenge to the country and the federal government, this other population of refugees, which are also persons of concern to the government, is also on the shoulder of the federal government of Nigeria.
True.
However, it is not daunting on our effort. The National Commission for Refugee is up and doing. I would like to state precisely like we have a robust legislation, which is the National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displacement Act of 2020, of 2022, that was established and enacted to meet challenges, contemporary challenges, is up, and we are using the legislation with other policy formulation within our department and organization to address challenges of refugees. As I said, refugee status is being guided under refugee status determination, and under the Act we have the eligibility committee that will come and sit and preside and decide status of asylum seekers in Nigeria, and if they meet the criteria, they are granted refugee status. Okay. And we have also refugee appeal board under the Act too, that also enable those who have not met, whose cases were not, maybe they are not satisfied with the decision of the eligibility committee, they now still go ahead on appeal for their case to be decided. All these policies are made to address this teeming population of refugees in Nigeria. Aside from that, once you are granted refugee status, you are issued with identity card, refugee identity card. You are also issued with attestation to say that you are an asylum seeker, or refugee identity card to certify that you are a refugee. This makes refugees now to move about freely in the society among other nationalities, among the citizens, free of hindrance and infraction or interruption from the public and security agents. Aside from that, again, we also issue them with convention travel document, which is similar to our national passport, to enable refugees to travel anywhere in the world for businesses, for education, for medical purposes, or for family reunification. So all these are tools and factors that are put on ground for us to manage the affairs of refugees.
The policy is quite expansive, and factors, those actions or activities that would quickly, or engender disintegration as we envisage for these refugees, for these internally displaced persons, whether it's with their access or seeking access to education, whether it's their penchant or their willingness to participate in economic activities in Nigeria. Is that what you're saying? In terms of actions, that's beyond policy now. These are the issues I would like for you to just point out, a few of them.
Yeah, when you talk about action, I will still break it down to you.
Yes, please.
Like, for example, refugees and asylum seekers in Nigeria, with our interaction with NIMC, that is National Identity Management Agency, refugees are also enrolled on NEN that enable them to go to bank and open bank accounts. They are also enabled to also go into business transaction, and go about doing their carrying out their livelihood to ensure that they live independent like the citizen of the country. Refugees are not meant to be supplied with handout or be given food or being caged in a camp. So one of the policy against I'm talking about is non-encampment policy in this country. Nigeria has no refugee camp like what you see in Sudan, in Kenya, and other countries. We have closed our camp since 2007. The camp that was in operation in Ogun State. We call it Oru Refugee Camp that time. But now the federal government abolished that policy, and it is an intentional policy to ensure that refugees, like citizens of the country, move freely about, live like other citizens of the country, and not to be caged. We have also empowered them through skill acquisition, training in all aspects of our trade, for them to be on their own and live like any other citizen of the country.
That's actually good news, and I'm sure that the Commission has an evaluation mechanism in place to gauge impact. So, I mean, we hear stories about how refugees have rebuilt their lives in Nigeria, even against immense odds. And, earlier on, yes, I did infer it, but could you highlight inspiring examples of how some refugees, even if it's one, have sustainably integrated into our local economy or economies? And in addition to that, I'd like for you to speak to beyond the policy now. What systemic support structure exists to amplify and ensure that refugees amplify, quickly embrace self-reliance without perpetuating dependency on existing structure, maybe by the Commission or by the federal government?
Thank you very much. I will start by saying that refugees in Nigeria are given that leverage of operating independently and like citizens of this country.
Yes.
And I want to tell you one thing again, is that many of these refugees that we see, some of them are being misconstrued to mean that refugees are destitute. Refugees are people that are just merely vulnerable in the society. That is not the case. Among this refugee population, we have professionals among them. We have lawyers, we have medical doctors, we have engineers. Some of them came to Nigeria with the qualification. Some of them are trained here in Nigeria to be this professional.
And are practicing today?
Are practicing in Nigeria.
Can you give me an example of one?
That is where I'm going to now. Yes. There's this popular lady who is also on social...
Do not mention names. Please.
All right.
Just go around the issue so that we don't...
She's into social media. She has been in all places. If you go to Human Rights Radio, she's also there. She came as a nurse in Nigeria. She got trained. Now she has doctorate degree. Wonderful. And she's running her NGO that is empowering women and children in Nigeria and even outside Nigeria. And she is doing very, very well, attending seminars globally. There is also another refugee who is a Palestinian who has been in Nigeria for years. After meeting the criteria to be granted citizens of Nigeria, she got naturalized, and now he's a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is into business, construction business, building, and other sort of interior decoration and other things. He is thriving very well in Nigeria.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm sure, yes, there are successes, but I'm also sure, yes, there will be challenges. It can't be all rosy for you at the Commission. Exactly. And especially when you consider that the number of refugees, are rising amid regional instability. I would like to ask you, what are some of the most pressing operational and systemic barriers that the Commission faces? Maybe funding gaps. I'm not putting words in your mouth. Maybe you're very buoyant and rich, so it's not an issue. But maybe the issue is infrastructural limits, or maybe it's even social tension. But I'd like to know, how do you, as a commission, prioritize some of these gaps, that exist for resolution, just so you achieve the mandates and objectives that you've set for yourselves?
Thank you. As you rightly know, the name of my organization is National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. All of them, all these three names are household names. Refugee is a great population in Nigeria. Nigerian government has refugee in this country that I told you is up to 127,000 asylum seekers and refugees. And we have over 300,000 Nigerian refugees in Chad, Niger, and Cameroon Republic. So all these are under the mandate of National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. Talk about IDP population too in this country.
Yes.
Which generally is normally stated that is about 3 million. But practically, we've been talking about over 6 million population of IDP in this country. Yeah. All these are under the mandate of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. The challenge is big, and it is a very, very a big responsibility for the Commission to handle this responsibility. However, with support from the government, with support from the society, with support from international organizations and relevant bodies, we are doing our best, just like you said, giving priority to our to the best aspect that we want to address. We are facing durable solution to the challenges. Durable solution of providing local integration to IDPs, local integration to some refugees who want to stay in Nigeria. Also, we talk about voluntary repatriation of refugees who want to return to their country, or when a situation that made them to flee their country does not exist again, we now promote voluntary repatriation for them to go back to their country. So these are ways... This
cannot come cheap.
Not cheap at all. Not cheap at all. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
And beyond the issue of funding, in terms of structure, you know, whether it's infrastructure, you know, are there also gaps there? Perhaps take for instance the quality of integration that you do, whether it's for refugees or for internally displaced persons. When you need to arrange things like maybe startup parks for those you've trained, for those who want to get into some sort of trade or some sort of vocation, that is also part of your mandate. You also facilitate reintegration somewhat by providing them with startup kits to start whatever businesses or vocation or trainings that they have completed. Is that also a challenge, or can that also be challenging? Has that been challenging for the Commission?
It's very, very challenging. It is not easy.
Okay.
The burden is huge. You consider this population that I've just mentioned. Meeting the criteria of everyone is not that easy. But as humanitarian agency, with the background that we come from, we normally prioritize.
Okay.
We normally prioritize. We go for vulnerable ones, and then what are the policy? What do we aim at addressing the
you pick
vulnerable one among them?
Areas.
And then you now go for people that, as I just mentioned, people that are able and are capable to carry out certain responsibility. We now also target them for that opportunity for them to excel in the area they can you know, expand themselves.
So sorry to butt in here, but I wanted to quickly, before you land on this issue, take you back to when you referenced in talking about the burden, you referenced the issue of partnerships, and you did not mention the quality or kind of partnerships that you have going. I would like for you to talk a bit on that, the quality and structure and nature of the partnership that you have, and how this partnership provides support in addressing some of these gaps.
Thank you very much. I will go straight. We have a partnership with United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Nigeria. That is our priority #1 partner.
Okay.
They are our technical partner that guide us in policy formulation on refugee status status determination in Nigeria.
Okay.
They provide support, they give us some technical training on how to carry out interviews, on how to make decisions, on how to even register this population by providing us tools and equipment,
okay,
and then sometimes some funding. However, you can see what is going on same time now in Ukraine, what is happening in Russia, what is happening in Palestine, what is happening in Syria, Turkey, and Sudan has drafted attention of international community. Funding for all these crises has become a serious issue, whereby priority now is given to critical issues in the global realm. As a result of that, United Nations High Commission for Refugee, as from last year till now, have really shrinked in their support to the government in this aspect.
Yes.
And as you can even see, the government of United States has also cut their funding to UN agency.
True.
And this thing has also affected our partnership with UNHCR and other NGO, international NGO in Nigeria, leaving the burden again to the government of Nigeria alone. And for your information again, National Commission for Refugee, Migrant, Internally Displaced Persons is not a revenue generating organization.
True, of course. It's not.
So it's just there depending on the fund
allocated to it.
Allocated to it. So this is the issue on ground we're having some.
You know, so a lot would depend on the nature, structure, and success of your partnership model. And talking about this, let me quickly take you to Benue and Cross River. These are the two states that bear disproportionate refugee burdens in Nigeria. In terms of support, since we're on this subject matter, I was wondering to what extent, states like this, particularly the two states that I've mentioned, this state government, and maybe even their local governments, and maybe even the NGOs there operating out of these states and international partners, how they share in some of these responsibilities, not just to close the funding gaps, but also to safeguard the rights of refugees in these states and internally displaced persons.
Thank you. Maybe I will like to comment from the side you mentioned. Okay. It is Taraba State and Cross River.
Taraba?
Yes.
Did I get it wrong there? It's not Benue?
Taraba State and Cross River.
Okay.
Cross River hosts the highest population of refugees in Nigeria, followed by Taraba State.
I stand that's
and then Benue State.
Oh, so Taraba before Benue.
Yes. So what I will tell you about the funny thing about them is that we have this kind of open policy, Nigerian government, in the policy of be your brother keepers.
Okay.
Despite the great populations of Cameroonians coming through our borders to our country, one can wonder to say, what and where do we keep these people? Where is the place? However, Nigeria are generous. Our host community and local areas where this population are coming in open their doors to receive these people. Most of this refugee population are living among the host communities. There is nowhere we call camp. And so these populations are being, that is what we are telling you, that is the contribution of the state itself. Okay. Traditional rulers and the government itself have also supported to encourage host community to receive these people, and they are receptive. If you go to Mambila Plateau of Taraba State, you hear the policy there is that they are their brothers and sisters. They don't call them refugee. So the same thing, when you come to Cross River State too, we have that policy. We have what we call refugee settlement, where we keep these people and some other of them that are living even among the host community. So we cannot see or quantify it in terms of financial support coming from the state. The mere fact that the state is generous.
You don't get so much reports on abuse of the rights of refugees because it will seem that they are properly and methodologically reintegrated or integrated into their host communities. Is that your submission?
That is my submission. They are blended, but that is not to say that
there are no challenges.
There are no challenges.
Okay.
Yes, because challenges must come because you see the struggle in the southern and northwest of Cameroon, okay, of the struggle of self-determination that they call themselves Ambazonia. You discover that there are some elements among them that find themselves among this population. And this is what we have policy that safeguard. We have our policy on ground that safeguard these elements. We don't want elements to be found among refugees because you cannot cause problem or cause war in your country and at the same time run again for protection. It's against international humanitarian law that you that cause trouble, you also run for protection. The same thing at the same time with people, the vulnerable one that you displace.
Well, it is my submission that we have had close to 20-25 minutes of interesting conversation on this issue. Incidentally, I would not say unfortunately, incidentally our time is done. Wow. My director has been signaling me to round off the conversation because we're totally out of time. I had wanted us to pursue a bit on, even the rights of our own Nigerians who are refugees in other neighboring countries and how much so the Commission is doing to repatriate or return some of these refugees back home. I'd wanted us to pursue further conversation on their own rights, and also the rights of those here in Nigeria. But incidentally, we can't do all of that now. Maybe we would look for another forum, another opportunity to bring you back into the studio so we can continue this conversation. I'd like to thank you so much, Mordecai Titus, Deputy Director, Refugees Affairs at the National Commission for Internally for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. Thank you so much for coming into our studios. Thank you so much for this interesting conversation. We look forward to seeing you come back here another time so we can continue this line of discourse, of conversation, just so we get a proper, more expansive sense of where we are nationally and even internationally in managing and handling issues of displacement and refugees in Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for coming on Insight.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.